I told myself I locked it. I even reached back for the handle as I walked away, just to check, but my fingers never quite touched the metal. It was late. The kind of night that wraps around you like a secret. Rain tapping on the windows like it knew something I didn't want to admit. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew he might come. I told him not to. Hours earlier, my voice had been firm, logical, distant, like I was talking to someone else's temptation, not my own. This can't happen again, I'd said. He didn't argue. Just paused. And then quieter. Then locked the door. That was all he said. And that was the moment I felt the shift, the ache I'd been suppressing rising in my chest like heat. Because if I really meant it, I would have turned the lock. But I didn't. Now the house is quiet except for the storm outside. And the storm inside me. I keep pacing, pretending to clean. Pretending not to glance at the door every 5 minutes like it's whispering my name. I'm not dressed for anything. Just a thin tee and the same shorts I always wear to bed. Nothing planned. But somehow it all feels intentional now. I should go to sleep. I should turn off the lights. But instead I'm standing in the kitchen, pretending to sip water, waiting for something I told myself I didn't want. Then, the sound. Not a knock. Not even footsteps. Just a breath. Behind me. The hairs on the back of my neck rise like they've been waiting to. I turn slowly and there he is. Framed by the faint hallway light. Rain still clinging to his jacket. Eyes darker than I remember, like he's been holding something in for too long. My heart doesn't skip, it slams. He wasn't supposed to be there. But I left the door unlocked. I should have said something. But I couldn't speak. Not with him standing there. Soaked in rain, silence hanging between us like smoke we were both too afraid to breathe in. I don't know how long we stood like that. Two people who had already walked away from each other. Yet somehow ended up back in the same room. Again. We said we wouldn't do this, I finally whispered. He didn't move. Just watched me like he was afraid I might disappear if he blinked. You said that, he replied. Voice low. Steady. Too steady for the storm inside me. My breath hitched, and I hated that he could still do that to me. With one sentence. One look. It had been 3 months since we ended it. 3 months of pretending to be fine. Of deleting texts I never sent. Of telling friends I was finally over him, while secretly sleeping in his hoodie just to feel close to something real. We were fire and rain. He burned hot. I kept my distance. But every time we tried to stay apart, something pulled us back. Gravity or madness, I couldn't tell. The last time we were here, it didn't end quietly. It ended in slammed doors, clenched jaws, bodies pressed against walls with words we didn't mean breathing down our necks. I told myself I was done. I meant it. But then I left the door unlocked. I thought you weren't coming, I murmured, not trusting the way my voice trembled. He stepped closer. Only an inch. But it felt like the floor shifted under me. I wasn't, he said. Until I realized you didn't lock it. There was something about the way he said it, like he could see right through me. Like he already knew I was lying to myself. A crack of thunder rolled outside and still I didn't move. He reached up, slow and careful, brushing a damp curl away from my cheek. And I forgot how to breathe. Because even after everything, the fights, the silence, the leaving, my skin still knew his touch. His fingers barely touched me, just a soft sweep near my temple, but my whole body reacted like I'd been set to flame. I should have stepped back. I should have told him to leave. Instead, I stood there holding my breath like it was the only thing keeping me from falling into him. He looked at me the way he used to, like I was a question he'd never stopped asking himself. And I hated how much of me still wanted to be the answer. You shouldn't be here, I said again, quieter this time, weaker. Like I didn't even believe it anymore. I know, he said. But he didn't move. Outside, the rain kept falling slow and steady. It softened the world, made everything feel like a dream I shouldn't be awake for. He took another step. Just one. Now we were too close. I could feel the heat of him, that familiar, impossible warmth that always made me forget how to think. His eyes dropped to my mouth, and I felt it, the pull. That terrible, beautiful ache that lived in the space between his breath and mine. But he didn't kiss me. He just stood there studying me like he was waiting for something. A sign, a tremble, a word I wouldn't say. And part of me hated him for that. For knowing me so well. for standing still while I fell apart inside. I told myself I wouldn't open that door again, I whispered. I know, he said again, softer this time, but you didn't lock it. There it was, the truth, sharp and quiet. He was right. I didn't lock it. Not because I forgot, but because part of me, the part one keep buried, wanted this. Wanted him. His hand brushed my arm, not claiming, not asking. Just the back of his fingers, slow, like he was remembering the shape of me by feel. And still we didn't kiss. But everything in me was already leaning toward him. Heart first. He smelled like rain and something I couldn't name. Something warm and faintly familiar. Like memories you try not to miss. I didn't mean to lean into his touch. But I did. Barely. Just enough that his fingertips caught the side of my wrist. He paused there, his thumb grazing the inside of it, where my pulse betrayed me. He could feel it, I know he could. The way it raced under his skin like it was trying to tell him everything I wouldn't say out loud. His eyes met mine again, and for a second neither of us was in the present anymore. We were back in my kitchen at 2 a.m. laughing over leftover pizza. Back in his car on that cliffside road, arguing over music until his hand found mine between gears. Back when we thought love was enough. Why are you here? I asked even though I already knew. He didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped, then slowly lifted again, heavier now, like the truth was too big to say all at once. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you, he said. No matter how hard I tried. My breath caught. And that was the problem, wasn't it? We were always trying to move on, without ever really letting go. You left, I said, barely a whisper. You were the one who walked away. I had to, he said, voice thick with something that made my stomach twist. You were drowning. And I couldn't save you if I was drowning too. That hit me. Hard. Because part of me hated him for leaving, but another part still loved him for being the only one who ever really saw me. The silence between us swelled. Full of all the things we never said. Apologies. Regrets. The ache of missing someone who still lives under your skin. I never stopped wanting you, I whispered. His jaw tightened just slightly. And then, as if pulled by gravity itself, he stepped in closer. Close enough that his breath skimmed my collarbone. Close enough that I felt his restraint trembling. And in that moment the space between us wasn't silence anymore. It was a question. And we were both leaning toward the answer. I could feel his hesitation like a second heartbeat. He wasn't touching me, not fully, but the nearness of him was louder than any words we could have said. That kind of silence has weight. And we were both holding it between us, trembling beneath it. His eyes moved across my face like he was trying to memorize it. Every line, every flicker of doubt in my gaze, every shiver I tried to hide. I shouldn't, he said, but he didn't step back. And I didn't stop him. Because everything about this, the rain still whispering outside, the stillness of the room, the quiet storm in my chest, it all felt like we were on the edge of something we already chose the moment I didn't lock the door. His fingers moved again, slowly, tracing the edge of my wrist, then up my arm. Barely there. A ghost of a touch. But my skin caught fire anyway. I hadn't realized how much I missed being touched like that. Like I was something delicate and dangerous all at once. Like he was afraid I'd vanish if he moved too fast. His hand stopped at my shoulder. He looked at me. I don't want to hurt you again, he said. That's when it hit me. The way his voice broke. The way his brow tensed like he was holding something in. He wasn't here just for desire. He was here because he still cared. Too much. And maybe that was even more dangerous. I reached up slowly, letting my fingers rest against his chest. I'm not asking for forever, I whispered. Just don't walk away tonight. He exhaled. A sharp, aching sound that came from somewhere deep. Then he leaned in, not fast, not reckless. Like every second closer was a battle he was trying not to lose. His forehead touched mine. We stood like that, breathing the same air, hearts close enough to feel each other's rhythm. Not kissing. Not yet. But the world had already shifted. And every breath between us felt like a confession we were no longer afraid to make. I could feel his breath against my lips. Shallow, unsteady, just like mine. We still hadn't kissed. But the ache between us was unbearable. Like the air itself had weight. Like if he moved a fraction closer, I'd come undone in his hands. My fingers pressed slightly into his chest, not pulling him in, not pushing him away, just needing something solid to hold on to. 'Cause inside, I was already falling. He pulled back just enough to look at me. Really look. I still think about the night you left, he said quietly. That night. The one we never talk about. The one where I said things I didn't mean. Things that came from fear, not truth. And watched him walk out with his jaw tight and his hands clenched like if he didn't, he might have begged me to stop him. I know, I whispered, eyes burning. I think about it too. His hand came up to my cheek then, fingers brushing a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. That was the thing about us. We always burned too close to the skin. Always felt everything too much. His thumb lingered at the corner of my mouth, and I closed my eyes just for a second just to feel. And that's when it happened. Not a kiss, but something slower, softer. His lips didn't claim mine. They hovered, brushed barely, like he was asking permission with every millimeter. And I gave it, without a word. Just the way my breath caught, the way my body leaned, the way my hands curled into his shirt like I was afraid I'd wake up from this. The kiss that followed wasn't desperate. It was slow, torturously slow. Like we were unwrapping something we'd been afraid to touch for too long. Like we were saying everything we'd never had the courage to say aloud, through lips and sighs and the aching silence between each heartbeat. We were barely touching, and I was already losing myself. There was no turning back now. The kiss had shifted something, not just in the room but inside me. Like the pieces I'd carefully locked away for months suddenly came alive under his mouth. We didn't rush. We never did. Not when it mattered. Every movement was a question, every pause an answer. His hands moved up my back slow and firm, like he was relearning the curve of me. My shoulder, my spine, the base of my neck. Places he'd touched 100 times, yet now treated like they were sacred. I pressed into him, breath shallow, legs unsteady. And when his forehead dropped to my shoulder, I felt it, the sigh. That soft, shaking exhale that told me he was just as unraveled as I was. I missed you, he whispered into my skin. God. The way he said it, not like a statement but a wound. Like missing me had hurt. Deeply. I didn't say anything back. I couldn't. My throat was tight, too full of everything I was trying not to feel all at once. So instead I pulled him closer. Our bodies met like they remembered something our minds tried to forget. And suddenly we weren't standing still anymore. The room became a blur. Walls, lights, rain. It all faded behind the warmth of his mouth on mine, the heat of his palm at my waist, the way our steps tangled down the hallway like we'd never left each other's rhythm. I didn't know where his hands ended and mine began. His shirt came off in pieces, one button, then the next, my fingers fumbling as if I hadn't touched him 100 times before. But this time felt different. Not like a routine. Not like something we were good at. This was surrender. We made it to the bedroom, breathless and dizzy, still laughing quietly between kisses, the kind of laugh that only happens when you're trying not to fall apart. He laid me back gently, eyes never leaving mine. And for a moment, neither of us moved. We just stayed there, heart to heart, skin to skin, remembering what it meant to be known that deeply. He kissed me like time didn't exist. Slow, intentional, reverent. There was no rush, only the gravity between us. Like we'd waited too long to pretend it didn't matter. Every breath was shared. Every touch felt earned. I could feel the history between us in his hands. The heartbreak, the longing, the pieces we both tried to bury. He moved over me with a tenderness that made my eyes burn. And when our bodies met, it wasn't wild or loud. It was quiet. Like prayer. Like we were trying to memorize the feeling in case it never happened again. I traced the line of his shoulder, the scar on his collarbone, the space beneath his ear where he always softened when I kissed him there. He remembered too, the way he trembled proved it. And when I whispered his name, everything stilled. His forehead rested against mine. His breath shaky. I never stopped loving you, he said. I didn't reply. I just held him tighter. Because I didn't need to say it, he could feel it in every inch of me. We stayed like that for a long time. Just us. No past. No future. Only the rhythm we found together, the warmth of skin on skin, the sound of rain still whispering outside like it knew what we had done. Eventually, his fingers found mine under the covers. And he held them, like maybe this time he wouldn't let go. I didn't want the night to end, and I think he knew that. Because when I woke up, he was still there. Watching me. Soft smile. Bare chest. The morning light painting his skin in gold. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Some stories don't end. They just wait for the door to be left unlocked.